Now, I don't have an Orchestron and I'm not using samples. I'm playing this from an optical disc, same as they did 50 years ago. This is the Quilter Labs Panoptigon. Hi, I'm Heinbach and it's good to have you back. A while ago I made a video on the Chilton Talentmaker, a similar optical sample player as the Panoptigon or the Orchestron or the Optigan for that matter.
This is quite an easy mechanism because you have this belt that is driving the plates, and this is an optical reader with photodiodes. Each of every tracks. The disc is a celluloid disc with 53 tracks. The inside part is for the organ, for the keyboard, and there are 37 loop, and the other is for each of the keys.
So it's like a bit like a remix machine, but definitely ORM.
Yeah, it's like an optical mellotron. It's the same principle for the audio on the cinema.
After the video went live, P and Robert contacted me and told me that they had made a modern instrument inspired on that technology from 50 years back. Curiosity got the better of me and I bought one. And they not only make the Panoptigon, they also make the discs available again and create new ones. Spikes joined. Hawaii. Waltz time. Pianoscape. Singing rhythm. Celeste. It's great that all of these discs are available, especially because historically they used to be kind of different formats. The Optigan and the Talentmaker are home entertainment instruments with all these pre-recorded loops, so at home you could get a lot of easy music out without having to practice a lot, while the Vako Orchestron was made for professionals. It featured no preset loops. The formats are all different, but with the Panoptigon, you can play them all. What makes this go beyond what you can do with samples are all the possibilities you have for warping and messing with the tones on here. First of all, you've got variable pitch. And that turns everything into incredibly dark drones. Come on. This is instant Tom Waits doom. Oh. So, can go very high. On the Chilton had to do this by very speeding the tape. This is way cooler. Then you can change play direction. You can manipulate the disc directly. Then there's the CompuDrive feature. With this you can use pitch bend. You can mix between chords and keys. And add effects. And those are just some of the tricks you can do. There is more, and I still have to explore some things, but of course other things work that I also explored in the Chilton video, like layering 2 discs for different textures. This waltzy thing, let's layer it with something interesting. Oscillations, which is a new disc that they made. Gnarly tones. The possibilities are endless, so what appears to be a rather limited instrument becomes so much more. And I'm not the only one who agrees with that. I talked a bit with Kyle Dixon of the band Survive, known for the Stranger Things soundtracks, who is one of the few people that has a Panoptigon in their studio.
Yeah, it's always nice when you have some random thing around and you're like, this thing is interesting and cool, but I don't know what I'll ever use it for. And then when you get the opportunity, it's nice. You're like, yeah, see, I wasn't. You're vindicated. You're like, yeah, see, it was for something. It came in handy.
I come from scoring. I used to do a lot of theater. That was my main gig. Directors would come in, and every time I could look, this is what I'm doing now, and it was real. It was way easier to make the music.
I haven't had any experiences where you bring someone in and it's awful. Usually they're pretty excited to see the things, and they're like, wow, so this is how you do it? And you're like, yeah, why don't you come press the button yourself, and then they're like, whoa, that kind of thing. So that's always nice.
So how did you come across the Panoptigon?
That's a really good question. Maybe I was just looking for an Optigon because I was kind of looking for Mellotron alternatives, and I always liked the Aguirre score. I had heard that they used the choir, and that's what they used for the choir sound on that song, and it sounds like it to me. I was gonna buy an original. That's what I was looking for, and then somehow I found out that they were making this one that has MIDI on it, and then at that point I was like, okay, I really don't care how much this thing costs. If it plays these discs and it has MIDI, that's what I want. It's very useful for scoring in that way. The way that I've started to do that type of work is using a lot of MIDI and having everything play back live, mostly hardware still, but just using the MIDI and piano roll in the computer versus not as many things like on a sequencer, like an MPC or a Circlon, which was the way that I was doing things for a while, but just being able to see, especially when you're doing chord progressions and stuff like that, just to be able to move some of the notes around, especially with scoring.
This could be just wonderful just to use as samples, because theoretically it's relatively static, and if you have long enough samples, you wouldn't notice. That's what I thought before I got one. How did you, did that cross your mind to go samples for this?
I like real stuff. I probably wouldn't get a real Mellotron at this point, just because even though they're very cool, but with the limitation, you can't hold the notes. That's one benefit of these discs is that you can do an infinite sustain if you want. It's tonally close enough to a Mellotron that it kind of does the same thing for what I would be using it for. It undeniably sounds like old, or in a way, and some people call it like creepy. It sounds creepy. When you hear like something that's a little bit lo-fi and has this texture to it. I don't see it that way, but I realize that it can be. It feels like something from the past, even though it's sort of brand new. Like the discs they're all new, and even if you did it like a super digital sound on one of those discs, it would probably still somehow sound old, which is something I would like to try out.
It is such a different thing having the disc in direct access, so to use your hand to modulate and stuff like that.
Right. Even without touching it, there's some inconsistencies. I leave the top off. I don't put the dust lid on, and it just gets really dusty. So it just sounds even older. It just
really?
it just gets worse. Draw a little pattern in there so it kind of gets noisy and less noisy. It definitely got used on the 4th season of Stranger Things. I'm sure it'll get used on the next season as well. If I ever need a choir, that's usually what I go to now, unless I'm looking for something that's just very different. But typically that through like the BAM or something is just a really fantastic sound. I think a lot of people are trying to get a little bit more imperfection or humanity or however you want to say it into the synthesizers, and sometimes you really just need a real thing, or it's just much more direct. You don't have to spend so long. You don't have to spend so long making a patch to get a nice sound.
Yeah, and when you find a thing that does that nice sound, you just hold onto it like nothing else. It's like, no, you stay. You're not gonna move away. This is like my thing now.
I enjoy the Panoptigon so much that I teamed up with P and Robert to create my own discs, and it's called Giallo. It's named after a genre of B-movies of the 1960s and 70s that was very influential to me in my own composition. For this, I recorded two very rare instruments, the Farfisa Polychrome, the queen of all string machines, and I recorded the rather quirky Carousel. Since you have all these possibilities to mutate the sound, it can also sound rather different, maybe even dubby. This was all one disc, and it just goes to show what you can do when you have direct access to the sound. It's a bit like working with tape. It is possible to do things differently than you would in the computer simply because other ideas pop up. Now, the rather high price of the Panoptigon with its nifty controller and all the discs, this will probably be an instrument restricted to professionals. And I have to say, I don't regret the purchase. I've used this in so many tracks all the time, and I even get hired by other people to play it on their records. For me, this was a well-worthy investment, and I'm happy that I get to make my own disc, which you can now buy from them too. If you're on my Patreon though, you get a decent sampler instrument from that disc that you can use in your own music as you like. That's it for this video. If you have any more questions, do put them in the comments below or visit the subreddit. Thank you all for watching. I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye.